I thought I'd just come and show you how I'm going to feed my bees some cappings. So these are, I do crush and strain honey extraction, so this is the sort of remainder, the sort of mush, waxy mush left over from that process. So I feed it back to the bees. I try and feed the same cappings back to the hive where the honey came from, if that makes sense. But if I've just got literally super cappings, or rather they've only had honey in them, so not brood, so maybe from the sort of the second super, so it's completely clear, it's only ever had honey in it, I kind of can feed that back to any of the other bees in my apiary. I sort of work on the principle that, you know, my bees are healthy and I don't have any disease, and I know people would be up in arms about sort of spores and American foul brood and other diseases, but I've never found it to be a problem. I would be a little bit cautious about putting post-brood honey cappings back in with a different hive. But if it's just super honey, sorry, there's a birthday party going on in the garden next door. If it's just literally honey cappings, then it doesn't really matter giving them back to some, another hive in your apiary. So I've got 2 lots to feed back, and one I'm going to put on top of a national, and one I'm going to stick inside a little WBC. I'll do that and show you what I'm doing. So here we have the cappings. You can see they're nice and clean. There's no sort of brood cases in there, no pupal cases from brood. So this I've got in an old roasting dish. And this one is obviously in a gold syrup tin. So the nice thing about using a metal container for feeding it back to them is that you can then just pop it in a low oven and it melts it down for you. So, the trouble is if you use a plastic container or something, you then have to try and get it out of the plastic container. So I like to use an old metal container. So if you've got an old saucepan where the handle's broken, or an old frying pan or something where the non-sticks, perhaps not as non-stick as you'd like it, you can keep it back for putting it inside the hive. I've got a super here, which is kind of a bit of it was a softwood super, and as you can see, it's kind of quite warped. Now, there are some gaps here, but they're not bee-sized. That's not in focus, there we are. But you just need to be a bit careful. If you're using an empty super to feed back cappings, you've got to make really sure that it's bee tight, because you will get robbers, absolutely guaranteed, if you're not careful. So I will block this gap up with a little bit of wood, because that is, if they got to work on that, they could get in that, and some more here as well. But it is quite handy if if somebody gives you some old supers or something and they're not really perhaps in good enough condition to use kind of permanently. It's always happy to have some spare supers sort of knocking about your bee shed, just for feeding stuff back, and for things like that. So do keep an eye out if people are getting rid of stuff. So I will get on and put the cappings in with the bees. I've just snapped some pieces of twig off to just block the bits where it's not quite so bee tight. So that is just something to bear in mind. If you're putting things on top of a WBC, make sure you block the wasp escapes, otherwise again bees will just help themselves from the top, and you don't want to trigger any robbing, because all bees will be up for it at this time of year. Keep them nice and quiet. So all I'm doing here, as you can see, it's not exactly packed in. I'm just going to sit it on its side there, like that. And the bees will come up through the holes in the crown board and find it. And I'll probably leave it in here for about a week and come back, take it out, replace it with some more cappings, and do that until the weather gets too cold. So here I've got a national. Obviously this doesn't have a nice, oh god, they glued that down well, recess in the roof like a WBC does. So this is why I need a spare super. Now my little plug has fallen out of here, so I'll just repair that. Right, I think that is okay. So you have to be a bit careful to not squash any bees when you put this in, and obviously put it in such a way that, now they're right over the crown board of this, so I'm going to use a piece of stick. So here we are, I've put the super on top of the crown board, and I've just propped, you see I've just propped it up with a piece of twig, because the bees are all underneath. Oh, they're underneath there, but they're more underneath, you can't quite see, but there's another entrance crown board thing, so I've just propped it up on a couple of sticks. But as you can see, they're already getting on with that. So I need to close this up quickly, so other bees don't find it. There we are, that's the lid back on. Now you can see, so this is the crown board, and I haven't bothered putting a crown board on top of the empty super because they're not going to build anything. I'm just going to weight that down because that's poking up a bit here and I don't want anything to try getting in. I'll just show you these bees though. You can tell they've been on the balsam. The colour of them coming back. That white pollen on their thoraxes. Bring in lots of pollen. It's a really good sign that the queen's in good shape and laying. Oh, there's one just bringing out a dead bee. It's like a bit of deformed, that's a bit of Ferrari deformation there. Really classic branding from being on the Himalayan balsam.